We're here today to provide a very important update into the senseless and tragic March 2023 murder of 15-year-old Devin Weedon. First, we're going to hear from our police commissioner, Kevin Bethel. He's going to be followed by our deputy commissioner of investigations, Frank Venor. After DC Venor speaks, we're going to hear from our district attorney, Larry Krasner. Next, we're going to hear from Councilmember Cindy Bast. After Councilmember Bass, we're going to hear from State Senator Sharif Street. And lastly, before we do Q&A, we're going to hear from Devin's father, Mr. Gary Weedon. We just respectfully ask that you keep all of your questions or leave all your questions till the end. Thank you. Commissioner.
All right. Thank you for that, Eric. So I'll begin. I think most of you know I spent the last 4 years as chief of school safety before returning to the department. It was probably one of the most difficult times during my time as a kid who grew up in the city and watching so many of our young people being killed across the city. During the time when Devin would lose his life, we had almost 76 students who were shot, and almost, I think the number was 38 kids of school age would be killed. But most importantly, we would start to see this level of violence encroach onto our schools. So many of you were there where we covered Lincoln and Bartram and Duckery, and I kept going and like, what is going on? I was there the day that Devin lost his life. Standing there trying to figure out, here's a kid on his way to school and would be taken away from us so senselessly. I watched his parents and just the anguish in their faces, like, I got a good kid here. He's playing football. He's getting good grades. He's got everything going for himself. And I think many of you at that time saw my frustration. I'm a kid who went to school. School was supposed to be a safe place for our children. Not sitting here talking about a child who lost his life at a school or a block from his school. And so as I returned to the department and the mayor set forth our charge to make sure that all of our young people in our schools would be safe. And I started that under our work. We would add pathways and add additional enforcement. But most importantly, we would not lose focus on that those who had committed these types of heinous crimes would be held responsible. And so I was very proud of the men and women in our homicide division when they stood forth and came to me and said we made one of other arrests that occur in this case. I remember seeing Dad, Gary, who's behind you, and his voice. I know this is a difficult day for him, but it's through the partnerships that you see up here that we have been able to bring someone to bear in this case. We will not stop, ladies and gentlemen. There are other cases. Earlier this year, we had a young man lose his life on Ogons Avenue after leaving Imhotep. I talked to his mother regularly. We will not stop. The mayor said after we had the shooting on Dilworth that these children in our community, these folks who lose, have value. She has given me my charge. And I accept that charge. Ladies and gentlemen, we will not stop. We will continue to go after those individuals who take the lives of our young people. Yes, we're glad that, excited about the fact that we're down in homicides. We're down 46% in homicides for our young people this year. That is exciting to see, but that is still too much. We're down to 5 fatals this school year from a system that had over 30 plus, as I described. But that still is too much. And so we will continue to work tirelessly with our partners at the DA's office and others here today to make sure we bring those individuals to bear. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to pass it over to Commissioner Venor. And I've said this multiple times. I am extremely proud of the leadership of Commissioner Venor and his investigative team, whether it be our shooting investigation group, our homicides, and others, for their tireless work in this space. I've consistently asked them, where are we in these cases? What are we doing? And consistently, Commissioner Venor, along with Commissioner Stanford, who stands on my right side, we are making progress, and I'm proud of both of them for the work they continue to do to meet the charge of my charge, but most importantly, the charge of the mayor to make this a safer city. So I'll pass it over to Commissioner Venor for his remarks.
All right, good afternoon. Just to review this case, back in March 28th of 2023, our victim in this case, Devin Weedon, is walking to school westbound on Hunting Park Avenue, appearing from Broad Street as he's walking towards his school. What we now know through our investigation is 4 individuals walk up the same direction as him, and they walk behind him. One of them brandishing a gun, approach him. We believe our investigation shows their intent was to rob Devin of his belongings. As the male with the gun approached, Devin got into a struggle with that individual and was shot. He was taken to Temple Hospital and pronounced. Detectives, as the commissioner said, worked relentlessly on this case, and preliminarily, we were able to recover some video. We also were able to coordinate with the detectives in Northwest Detective Division who had been investigating multiple robberies in that area of Broad and Hunting Park. The robbery that occurred just the night before this murder was significant because that robbery had some of the same descriptions as this robbery. And it turns out that our defendant that we're going to announce today was a participant in that robbery. The evidence that we were able to recover from that case led to his arrest in April of 23, and he was just recently convicted in that case. I'll let the district attorney talk about that. Other evidence that we recovered during that case and evidence we recovered during the homicide were able to lead us to get a warrant for Taamir Cole, 20-year-old male. We know now that Taamir Cole is suspect number 2 in the video we released. He had the Paradox hoodie, black hoodie on that day, and he was a participant in this robbery that turned into a homicide. The homicide detectives were able to coordinate all the evidence that we recovered, including the video evidence we recovered. I know you have shown it. We received tip calls. We are moving closer to identifying and getting enough probable cause for other individuals that participated in this case. So with that, I'll turn things over to the district attorney to talk about charging and our next steps. Thanks.
All right, I'm going to ask my team to come forward for a moment, let you know who they are. There's a lot of great attorneys in our office in the homicide division who do homicides and non-fatal shootings. But we got some particularly great ones here today because I want them on this case. I want them to do this case. We have with us, of course, our chief, Joanne Pescator. We have with us Christian Wynn, who's going to see this case from beginning to end. We have Ty Pittenger, an excellent prosecutor who prosecuted the robbery that occurred the day prior, for which there has already been a conviction and there has already been a sentence of this defendant. The charges in this case at this time are murder generally, which of course includes first-degree murder, for which the only sentence other than death that is available is life without the possibility of parole. There is also a charge of conspiracy. We expect to add some other charges as we move forward, including most likely a robbery charge and possibly some other charges. The defendant, Taamir Cole, is a participant in this robbery. The other participants, we sincerely hope and intend to work very closely with our colleagues who've done an excellent job with the Philadelphia Police. We sincerely hope will be in custody soon, and they will be facing the consequences that they deserve for their participation in this crime. I will not go on and on because I believe the Commissioner and also Deputy Commissioner Venor have covered a number of other points and covered them correctly. I see no reason to repeat any of that. But I do want to just say a couple of additional things. I want to thank our council member, Cindy Bass, who has kept a lot of us focused and front of mind around this case because she cares, and I really appreciate that. You're going to be hearing from the father of the victim in this case, Mr. Gary Weedon. Well, you know, our office knows him a bit. We've had a lot of contact with him, and I want to thank him for deciding to trust the system and to trust the police and to trust the prosecution and to trust that even after 20 months had passed, we were not done. We were trying. Because sometimes there are people who decide they're going to settle it on the street, and the family of this victim didn't do that. And I want to thank you personally for that, because I know how it has to feel when you suffer a horrific loss like this, especially with a son who was doing everything right. I know how terrible that must feel. Obviously, if there are any more questions about the details of this case, we're happy to hear them. But I want the public to understand these were robbers. They were robbing people, and they were willing to do anything if that robbery went a certain direction. They did this. We're talking about a young man who committed a robbery for which he's already convicted the day before, and whose involvement in this robbery, in this homicide was only discovered later. Well, there may have been other robberies. There may have been other robberies that these defendants committed. If there are people in the public who are aware of one that might be connected to this, then we need to hear about it. If there are people in the public who have knowledge of who the other participants were, we need to hear about this. And I'm asking you to come forward, because kids should be safe going to school, and they should be safe in school, and they should be safe going home. We cannot have this. We will not tolerate this. And I am once again very, very grateful to our partners in law enforcement. I'm very grateful for the incredible hard work that I know is coming from Christian Wynn, and I know is coming from Ty Pittenger. I'm very grateful for that work. Nobody outworks Christian Wynn. Nobody works harder. Nobody does a better job than some of these lawyers that we have. I only wish we could keep them for their whole careers and not have them depart now and then, because they could use a little bit more love or money. I only wish we could do that, because they do such an amazing job. It is now my pleasure to introduce Councilmember Cindy Bass, who has been so deeply concerned about this family, this case, and so many other families who have suffered a terrible loss.
I just want to say thank you. I want to give a big thank you to the Philadelphia Police Department. I want to give a big thank you to the District Attorney's Office. And I want to say that this work is not easy. We understand it. Listen, I've been a little bit impatient myself, and a little bit pushy. And so I thank them for, continuing to do the work that needed to be done to get this case on the road to being solved completely. I never met Devin, but there are a number of cases in terms of homicides that happen in my district that really just stick with me, and this was one of them. Devin was somebody who was doing the right thing. He was going to school. He wasn't bothering anybody. He wasn't doing anything that he wasn't supposed to be doing. Just going to school, and this happened. It shouldn't have happened. And Devin could have been my son. He could have been your son. He could have been, a kid down the block that a good kid in the neighborhood. He could have been your nephew, your cousin. He could be any one of us. And so, again, I just give many thanks to the police department and to the District Attorney's Office for all of their hard work. And I want to personally thank also Mr. Weedon for his faith in the system and believing, because, I know that, things could have went a little bit different. He could have really handled some things differently. But I want to say thank you, again, for trusting the process, because it's working. It's hard to wait. It's hard to have that patience. But, I met Mr. Weedon. I met your wife. I met, all of Devin's brothers and sisters. It's a big family, and a lot of love, a big, close-knit, tight family. And, I just want to give you some love and, tell you how much we appreciate you and your family sticking in there and hanging in there, because government's not easy. But thank you. God bless.
Senator Sharif Street, want to thank the police department, the district attorney, Councilwoman Bass, and of course, condolences continue to go out to the Weedon family, and want to thank them for, as the councilwoman mentioned, trusting the system. Devin's murder was hard for all of us, because he was a young man that was going to school, doing the right thing. And when we had to talk to students about it, it was hard to explain. But one of the things we have to have, if we're going to get out of the cycle of violence, is we have to have a police department that people will rely on, and a district attorney that will bring things to justice. Folks taking justice into their own hands only makes things worse for those families, worse for those communities. And I want to thank Commissioner Bethel, who started out working on this with the school district and has continued being ever vigilant as commissioner and encouraging people. I want to thank the mayor for her intense focus on trying to make sure our communities are safer. And I want to say to everyone out there, look, we got a long way to go, but we're making some progress. And we only get there if with the community working together and being willing to trust that this system, while imperfect, is better than what we can come up with on our own, and it will only be as good as we make it. But to all that, thank you to all the folks who have done a significant amount of hard work to get to this point, and we know that there is much work to be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator. I'd like to welcome Mr. Weedon, share a few words.
How y'all doing? I'd like to first of all thank the police department, the homicide division, everybody up on the stage for putting the hard work. It's not no easy job. I'm crying not only because of my son, but the other people who lost life. My wife couldn't be here. It's too much on her right now, so she couldn't come. And so I'm here for me and her and my kids. I gotta stay strong so they can see me take the lead and they can just follow me. It's hard, you know, when you got a son who make you so proud as a dad, and then 1 minute you hug him and say you love him. The next minute you get a phone call saying he was shot. And that was it. It hurted me. I'm hurting. You know, so I just like to thank everybody, plus my pastor. Without my pastor, like I said before, I wouldn't be here. My pastor talked to me, prayed with me. He did my son's funeral. Pastor Stewart, I love you, man. I love my brother right there next to him. The brother in Bible studies, you know, and I love all y'all who put in the hard work, you know, overtime and grinding, and I just thank him, man. Like, I miss my son a lot, but I got a little piece of justice because someone had been arrested, and that one arrested would probably save another child or somebody else. Like she said, that could have been your sister, your brother, your uncle, your aunt, and it hurt, man. Like, I can tell everybody here today, if you're going through something with anybody in your family, don't matter how much y'all going through it, you know, somebody got to be the better person. Get up, hug them, tell them you love them, you know, you there for them. My son had all the support in the world. I would do anything for my son, anything for my son, anything for any of my kids. And, you know, it turned out like this. All I want to know, why? 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 Because he defended himself? That's what it is? You know, I never seen the video. Don't want to see the video. Don't want to hear nothing about the video. So I was saying, I took it upon myself to say it was my fault because I showed him how to fight. Maybe if he didn't know how to fight and they beat him down, would he be here today? No, they got a shock of their life. They jumped on somebody who knew how to hold his hands, and he handled his business. And, you know, it's crazy, man. Like, I don't understand it, but we got to get better. You know, I think, like I said, I thank everybody here today, and I love everybody, and I appreciate the district attorney, Street, Miss Bass, my man back here, right here, Krasner, you know, and all the police departments and homicide. That's it. Take care. God bless all y'all.
I think we had to let those words sit, right? So we'll now, if you have any questions, we'll take any questions you have. Come on, Frank. Okay, go ahead.
What was the break or breaks in this case? It's been more than a year. What was the?
I think we want to.
Since we're in the prosecution stage.
stage. I don't want to put all the evidence out. That's going to be up to the district attorney whether he wants to speak about all the evidence.
Yeah, I think for the purpose of that, we won't be able to share that at this point. Right, we still have a lot of work to do.
I believe Taamir Cole was the shooter or participant of the fire shooting.
That's a no, Frank.
He's a participant.
He's a participant.
Ms. Park.
What do you need from the public at this point to help this completely come to fruition? What are you asking for as far as images of what people recognize?
I think first and foremost, sometimes we come in here, we have to appreciate the media for pushing this information out, right? It starts there, right? You know, we add value to these individuals when you put information out and we start getting tips. You know, right now the work has been happening behind the scenes as part of the work. And so constantly looking for additional tips. Frank can come up here and share what else he may be looking for. You want to come up, Frank?
That's all I was going to say. There are 3 more participants in this, including the individual with the gun. We know a lot now. All right, we've been investigating this a long time, but a tip doesn't hurt us. Information doesn't hurt us. It'll only corroborate what we already know. So if someone knows something that has information, we urge them to still give us a call.
And what would you say right now to the suspects? It sounds like you do have a lot of information, so maybe it's in their best interest to...
Yeah, well, we're coming for them. So if they want to surrender and tell us what they did, we'd be glad to talk to them. But we're going to continue this until we get everybody into custody.
Do you have an address on Taamir Cole?
You'll have to talk to Public Affairs, and I'll give it that.
I know it's been motive for robbery, but I mean, does this truly seem like a crime of opportunity? They have no ties to Devin whatsoever. They perhaps just saw him on the street and thought this would be our victim.
I mean, based on our investigation, it appears they were doing that quite a bit in that area. So it appears they were walking behind him and picked him as a victim. He's walking by himself. He had his backpack on. He was going to school. You could just tell he was all alone. Really came up upon him. That he never really seen him, at least what we seen. He didn't even see them coming.
To the extent that you can speak on the robbery from the day before, connected to the 2 cases.
Well, it was at Broad and Hunting Park. That robbery case, obviously, we had video with that. There was evidence recovered. Based on that evidence, not to get too detailed, we were able to lead us to Cole. And based on that and other information we developed since then, we were able to put him at this case and being involved in this case. I don't have the number. There were multiple robberies that we thought. It may not have been all these individuals. Could have been others participating too. We're still working through that, but there were robberies.
He's only been convicted of the one the night before.
Yes.
Good? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out. We appreciate it. Oh, one more thing. Yeah, we do have one additional update that Commissioner Venor, I'm taking Grip's job. One more additional update. It relates to a Dilworth investigation.
Yep. As you know, we had 3 juveniles shot 4:30 on 15th Street, right at Dilworth Plaza on Friday night. One of them remains in critical condition, 14-year-old. Responding officers made an arrest that night of a 14-year-old. That 14-year-old was charged with aggravated assault and related offenses. Through evidence that we've recovered since then, video in Center City and other evidence, we developed 2 more 14-year-olds that were participants in that incident. This morning at 6 a.m., warrants were served at their residence, an arrest warrant and a search warrant in both. One 14-year-old was taken into custody this morning, and he remains here. He's going to be processed for the same charges as the first individual, aggravated assault, conspiracy, related offenses. We have an outstanding warrant for another individual that we're currently actively seeking as we speak. And again, as I said in the other cases, we are not done. There are other individuals that are responsible in that case, and we're going to move forward to make sure they're all charged.
Before you walk away, 2 questions. Cliff, so that's a total of 4 14-year-olds
3.
and a 15-year-old?
Yeah, no.
There was
So
2
there
14-year-olds?
was one 14-year-old charged on Friday night. 2 more now that we've charged. Well, one we charged today. The other one we have a warrant for.
Is one of the 14-year-olds you just charged, was that the one who was driven to the hospital?
No,
or anything? Okay, so that's-
The victims are separate. We had a 15-year-old victim who was shot and he was unstable. A 14-year-old victim was unstable, and we have another 14-year-old that was shot in the eye and still remains critical at the hospital.
You have these 2 14-year-olds that
that are defendants. They're part of the fight that eventually led to the shooting.
Is there a message you have for these young teenagers about fighting, leading to, that's a lot of.
It's a lot of violence over an argument, over,
And their parents.
you know, ultimately what we know now is over picking on somebody's brother. This developed into this big of a tragedy. So, and the individual who's in the hospital is fighting for his life. He still is fighting for his life. He had several surgeries. We believe he lost his eye. He is fighting for his life. So, and that's over an argument and basically a bullying of his younger sibling. So, very serious, and you got to let somebody know when it's going on so we could intervene.
I know I've asked you this before, but I'm gonna ask you it again. Is there any type of, as a police officer, is there any type of surface solution that people could do immediately now to get these kids to understand?
If I had that answer, you know, I'd be doing something else maybe, but that I don't have that answer today.
But I do want to echo, you know, our 10% of all of our violence surrounds young people. 90% of them are adults. And so we also have to give credit, the glass half full, that much of the activity and much of the work that works for young people is working. We know coming out of COVID that being in school is important. We know that the programs and the things that keep kids out after school time is important. We know that 2.5 hours and 2 miles around school is where we see a lot of our violence. So I often want to look at it from a half glass full too, that there's a lot of good work. People are working. We can see it when only 10% of our violence centers around young people. And so we continue to tell people that a positive adult in a child's life can totally turn a child's life around and change the trajectory of who we are. Reach out and touch them. You know they have guns. We ask parents to check their homes and see if they have guns in their homes. There's stuff happening on social media that we can't see. Bring that information forward so we can prevent these types of situations. But we know after COVID, a lot of guns hit the street. The men and women in the department have done a phenomenal job of making those arrests, but we're going to continue to push forward. And we hope, as you push out this message to those individuals, if you engage in this type of behavior, we are going to come after you, and that's part of the work as well.
Commissioner, sorry, 12%,
I don't know where you're getting those up 12%. I would.
So it is 12%, I mean, it's up from 6% in 20,
What is up?
the youth involved in the shootings.
I don't. Where you get those? I don't have those. Yeah. So where are you getting those stats from? Yeah. We would have to take a look at the stat. I don't know if you're splitting where we make the split. We know we're down almost 46% in our homicides. We know we're down with our 15 and under. I think you're making a split at 17. We would have to take those numbers. We're not. Yeah. We're making those splits to see how that looks. I don't see that data the way you're saying it, but we could talk offline. I know we can figure out where we're seeing some differences. But we are, I mean, for the most part, juvenile violence, as I indicated, has been fluctuating between 10 and I think upwards of 11 to 12% for the last decade or so. So even at our highest number, when we had 560, if you go across the numbers, you'll see we're constantly in that range between that 10, 11, and in this case, maybe 12%. We'll see what the data looks like. But we've always stayed in that space, and it's been proportional throughout that process.
What do we know about where kids are getting these guns from?
Listen, you get them on the street, right? I mean, we understand that because of just the sheer amount of guns that flow into the city of Philadelphia, it's not very hard for today, unfortunately, for a young person to get a weapon. It's pretty damn easy, right? And so, I mean, we do a lot of work and try to combat that. But today, I mean, hell, you can buy a gun, you don't have to report it stolen. Let's just start there. Today, I can walk into a store, buy a gun, and don't have to tell anybody it was stolen. So we have our problems. They are things that should be fixed, that need to be fixed, but we won't let it deter our work to try to combat the violence that we see.
Regarding the Dilworth incident, is there multiple kids who shot in that? Or was
I
it
think
just
we only have one shooter.
And he's in custody?
He is not. All right. All right, we'll wrap it up there. I will follow up with you on the data and make sure we get it right. All right, thank you.